Welcome back to the Morehammer podcast, your weekly podcast where we talk all things Warhammer from the past week and have some general good fun hobby chat. This week we look at the huge success of Warhammer the Old World and we ask, can it overthrow Age of Sigmar and what is to come from it? We take some community questions and of course we will have our usual Warhammer 20 questions. I am one of your hosts, wargamingluke, but as always joining me are my amazing co-hosts, Ben, 90, aka 90% Geek. How are you, my friend? I'll get my words out today.
I'm doing good.
The caffeine's kicking in.
Yes. No more coffee for that man.
No.
Yeah, no, I'm doing good, thanks.
Good. And of course, Simon, aka Hobby Waffle. How are you doing, my friend?
Yeah, good, thanks. How's everyone else?
All good. And joining us this week, we also have another guest, and that is Rick, aka Pointy Paints. How are you doing, buddy?
Not too bad, dude. Thank you for having me on.
Good. That's no problem at all. It's good to have a new face on. And as always, and hopefully you've checked this beforehand, so we'll soon find out. We always ask every new guest the same question. Which is, if you could only pick one kit or box to take with you on a deserted island, what would it be? And it doesn't have to be Warhammer, it can be anything. And most people tend to answer this either clever or just your favourite box or kit. So, I mean, go with whichever, dude.
I'd probably have all the hobby stuff that you need as well. All
probably have to go for a Reaver Titan, because it'll take me a while to build.
But that's a good thing, though.
Yeah,
it's a good thing.
Yeah.
And if there are any tribal people on the island, maybe, you can just literally put the Titan there and it's big enough to look like some sort of scary, weapon. They wouldn't mess with that.
Call it Willis and speak to it.
I think you've gone for a Reaver Titan, not a Warlord. Like, you can have any kit you want and unlimited time and hobby supplies. Well, I'll go for the Reaver. The Warlord seems like it's excessive.
Yeah, no, the Warlord is excessive. It's far too big.
Well, no, that's too much.
Carry it on the raft with you afterwards.
No, No, cheers, Rick. That's a good one. I don't think we've had anyone say a Titan yet, so I like that.
No.
That's cool answer. Just a little housekeeping before we do kick off what we've been up to for the last week in the hobby, guys. And that's that, of course, we are here, as always, every week on YouTube with the visuals and audio. If you would like to subscribe to us, please do. If you've been watching us for a little while now, make sure you are subscribed. It does help us out a bunch. And, of course, like and comment on the videos. You can also join us over on Spotify for audio-only versions of the podcast. And follow us over there and do all the same stuff over there. Throw us likes. And please do share around, actually, as well. It does also help out a bunch.
And come and join the Morehammer Discord. The Morehammer Discord is a good place to come and chat.
As Ben's just said, come and join us for a bit of chat. Rick's just joined us in on there as well. I've added him in, so I'm sure he'll be able to throw some of his content on there and some of the models he's been painting up, especially after this show. But yeah, join us in the Discord. Comments for everything. Links to everything will be in the comments down below once I put the podcast out. But otherwise, guys, and I think the tradition now tends to be guests first. So, Rick, what have you sort of been up to in the last week or so, or more, I guess, because since it's the first time we've had you on, what are your latest projects and games that you might have played?
Just on the desk over there, I've got a Repulsor Executioner for my Howling Griffins.
Oh, yes, I forgot you were doing your Howling Griffins.
Going to be a fun, because I still haven't worked out how I'm going to paint this thing yet. But for the past couple of weeks, I've been getting my Age of Sigmar, Cities of Sigmar army done for the Northern Ireland GT that was this weekend just gone.
Okay.
So I've been mainly focusing on getting the army ready for that. And then now I'm just going to focus on 30k and 40k for a bit till 4th edition rolls in.
Sounds good. Yeah, I have seen the pictures of your Howling Griffins, dude, on Insta and stuff. Very nice work. And not easy to get the separation, are they, on there? Except you've done it really nicely. So you don't see it. They're not all good, but...
I can't see how people... I've seen people use masking tape for it, and I just don't know how they do it. It's like
it's too complicated, isn't it?
Just have to try and freehand it.
Yeah.
You spend more time messing about with the masking tape than you would actually painting the line, just trying to get it perfect over the helmet and stuff like that.
I think the biggest thing I'm going to have with the tank is how I'm going to approach the quartering, because I don't know if I should do it looking down or have it so the upper half of the marine is basically the same as the front of the tank. So that's kind of what I'm trying to get my head around at the day. Everyone that I've asked has basically said just paint the tank black and do the doors red and yellow.
Looking down, I think looking down is probably a good idea.
Because
that's probably the perspective that everyone would have on the tabletop is be looking down at it, really, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Go on, Ben. What was you going to say?
I've got a Nova Marines army, and that's the approach I took with my tanks. Was top-down quarters. I basically imagined it as if I'm looking at the Marine, but the tank is the Marine, the engine is kind of the head, the front is the feet.
Yeah.
And I just quarter it like that, and it works really nice. I'll put a picture up on the Discord how one of my tanks came out like that. But yeah, I wouldn't bother with the masking tape because I've tried it. You end up with a little bit of a ridge between the two colours, and it's just a pain in the
Oh yeah. I did some masking tape on my Iron Warriors for the chevrons, and I had the lump, and it was the sandpaper come out, and I had to get rid of it, and then just freehanded it. It just annoyed me.
Too much for
really annoyed me. Yeah.
Cheers, Rick. That's good to know what's going on. Obviously, we'll say at the end of the podcast, but do make sure to go and follow Rick on Instagram, especially. He's got, so like I say, some lovely projects going on to take a peek at. Si, let's go with you next then, bud. What have you been up to then for the past week, if anything, I suppose?
Well, rather appropriately, just the bolt guns just fell off, but Nova Marine.
Hey! There you go.
So yeah,
wow,
can't see because of the light. But,
quartered armies everywhere.
Yeah, I've just been messing about painting a couple of space marines that I had lying around. So I've done one as a reviler or revelers. How do you pronounce it? What is it? Revelers or revilers? Revilers, isn't it?
They revile things rather than throwing a party for everything.
Are they the ones from the Astartes?
From what? Sorry,
Are they the ones from Astartes?
No, is that the Reclaimers? Is it or something?
The Reclaimers is the ones from the Caiaphas Cain novels that are very obviously wombles. The Revilers are the ones with grey with a skull with a lightning bolt going through it.
That's it, yeah. And they've got the company denoted on the helmet. So
that's right. Yeah, they're there.
Retributors, I think, is the one from Astartes. I think. Anyway, yeah, I painted one of those.
Too many the same,
I'm halfway through a Nova Marine, and then I might try a Red Scorpion as well. I'm just trying to think of something different to do.
Having a play around.
That's the only real hobbying I've done this week, to be honest. I've been messing about with those Caradron Overlords again, but I haven't painted any. And then the rest of it's just been rummaging in my Dreadfleet box and wondering, can I paint the entire fleet using just contrast paints or the vast majority of contrast paints, just see if I could get away with it. So I might do a video on that.
That would be very cool.
I'm sure there's some
because
good
still
tutorials
got a few
online
to
as well
paint, so I want to see if I can get away with it.
Contrast with them.
Pardon?
So I'm sure there's some good tutorials everywhere online as well as to how you can sort of do use contrast on them.
Yeah, the sails was my big worry, but you could probably just put contrast through the airbrush onto the sail, so that'll probably work.
If you got airbrush, you could do that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, airbrush them and then just layer on like the little details, like the griffins and skulls and all the other, depending on what ship you're painting.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'm determined to finish off that box.
It's a really cool set.
But yeah, that's it for me, hobby-wise.
Well, in my case, I have finally got a game in for the first time in ages. I know it doesn't happen very often.
See your idea.
But yeah, no, I had some friends round over the weekend. We've got some garden work that desperately needed doing, and therefore we conned some friends. Big thanks and a shout out to my friends Marcus and Lena, who came round and helped us completely destroy a deck that was in our back garden and reduce it to a pile of rubble. But therefore, once we'd done all the heavy lifting and the hard work, we were kind of like, okay, well, we feel virtuous now. We've earned the chance to play some Warhammer. So since it was still nice out, we stuck the table outside, threw a 6x4 up, and got a game of Old World in. And Marcus's first game of Old World, so we took it slow, only put 1,000 points. And he dug out his Orc army that I think he last played with probably back in 6th edition. And I dusted. I wrote 8 lists known as the Marcus Manglers, and then we rolled D8 to see which list I would end up using. So it was kind of a slightly kind of oddball approach to it. And there was some real fun kind of moments like the stone thrower scattering off one unit of knights and landing on the other unit of knights, or the fanatics coming flying out of the night goblin unit, and my sorcerers just turning around and going, "You see them? They're now on fire," and they were dead.
I heard about your knights. Absolutely,
the
charge.
Charge the Black Box unit.
Forgot to use the pointy end.
Oh, they were supposed to have Grail Knights backing them up in the flank, but the Grail Knights failed their charge. And that meant that the Knights of the Realm with the Baron went charging in on their own. The Baron kind of went and just fluffed it and promptly got beheaded by the Black Orc boss, which point the rest of the Knights went, "Run away!" and fled off the board.
This all certainly sounds like fantasy.
Oh, it was brilliant. It was a lot of fun. We had a real good time with it.
Yeah. Any other sort of painting hobby in other than the game, Ben? No? Mostly the gaming?
I haven't, just the gaming. I haven't got any more painting done. I looked fondly at some miniatures in a kind of a vague, I'd like to spend some time painting, and then went back to destroying a deck.
Nice. Well, I'm the opposite of you this week. I've just managed to get a few bits painted, but only a little bit this week, and no game for me in the past week. So I literally just posted on Discord actually a little earlier. Got the Terror Wings done that come with the Hunters of Huachi? Can't remember how to say it. Yeah, the chameleon skink. The new weird ass name for the chameleon skinks.
Is that the Warcry Warband?
Yeah, it came out as that first, didn't it? And then I never thought that they'd leave them as that unit actually in the new Seraphon battle tome, but they did. But they separated the Terror Wings. I think you can take the Terror Wings for like 70 points and they literally just harass units. So I figured I'd paint them up, and I love, I posted on socials with the pictures as well. I love black and orange as colours together. I don't know really what it is with black and orange, but it just looks so cool. It's like your headset there, Rick. Yeah. Got the black and orange going on. But yeah, so got them 3 painted up. I built my other 10 unit of Saurus Warriors, because then I think now I've only got the other 5 Raptidons to do, and the 10 Saurus, and then I've got my 2,000 points ready to go to the event in May. So I'm more than ahead of time now, which means I might well treat myself the next couple of weeks to get back to some Tomb Kings. We'll see. Because I didn't think I'd be this far ahead of schedule, so hopefully I'll be able to get back to some Tomb Kings, because they've been looking at me from the shelf in their box, and I'm so tempted to get back to them, but I've been really trying to stick to my Seraphon to get them done. So yeah,
paint some Tomb Kings and then have the traditional last-minute desperate paint the night before the tournament for the rest of the army.
The nice thing about Tomb Kings as well is, even though obviously the older models can be a bit more fiddly to build, Tomb Kings are dead easy to paint. So at least there's that nice
contrast. Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, that's what my last kind of week's been. Hopefully next week I'll be able to get a game in again, but we'll have to wait and see. But Ben, what is it time for?
And now, the news.
Thank you. There we go. That's on point now every week.
Yeah, you weren't there the other week when we asked him and he went like this.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, that one's going on the bloopers at the end of the year, I think. But yeah, first, we've got a couple of things we can chat about this week that we're bringing up, but mostly from in actual Warhammer news for this week. Mostly from today, really, actually. We've had a few model reveals that we haven't seen before, so we thought we'd have a little look at these. First of which is we've had the first, I believe, because Liberators obviously are just kind of obviously a rehash of the old models, but this is the first new model we've seen. The Ruination Chamber opens and we've got the Reclusians, and wow,
sounds like another Space Marine chapter name.
Yeah,
this is stunning.
You're not wrong.
Absolutely stunning.
Such a cool model. I love that you can just make out the detail, the skull in the middle of the shield as well. Like they've replaced that kind of Tempesty face, Sigmar face, with a skull instead. That's so cool.
So I think we can assume that the female Stormcast warrior that we saw in the trailer, that's that one, isn't it? If you just
this is what they are.
I'm hoping that comes with a bare head as well. That's going to be pretty awesome.
More than likely. But yeah,
it's the chainmail. Like if you look underneath the neck, you've got that chainmail details, just amazing.
Is there a little coif just underneath the neckline?
Yeah, if you scroll back up, you can just see it just underneath the bottom of the helmet.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's very cool to point out,
Yeah, and I mean, awesome. And it's at the midriff as well, and hanging down at little,
and all the way down between the feet.
That's cool.
So obviously we know the lore behind these new guys is that they are basically losing their minds because they've been reforged so many times, and they're forgetting their selves, their own history. They're forgetting themselves, losing their minds. And these guys that actually come with them, the lore is so cool. They've literally got these priest guys called Memorians that have to stick with them to sort of ground them.
Like to keep them anchored.
In reality.
you know what the first thing that came into my head when I saw these? It's like, in the final battle on Gladiator when he's fighting in the arena, and he keeps having visions of it, like the afterlife, where he's reaching for the gate.
Yeah.
It's like, it's almost like these guys are going to say, "Oi, come back!" We were still fighting. To keep them anchored in the present. So that was the image that just popped into my head. I'd be interested to see what the in-game mechanics are going to be for these.
Yeah, that's what I was
It'd be
thinking.
awesome if it's like at the end of every battle round, roll a d6, and on a 6 it's the way with the fairies, and it's lost to the, and you can recover the following turn maybe or something. But there's got to be something cool for these.
Maybe
guys.
some version of like the impetuous rule, like they have to attack the closest target unless the memorial helps them remember what they're doing.
Well, it's like all the old rules used to have for like sort of like steed models that have like the, what do you call it, guys that like poking them to make sure that they do what they're meant to. Yeah, like you have the old salamanders for Seraphon and all that jazz.
If you rolled wrong, then the salamander would just turn around and eat a skink.
Basically, yeah, and then attack.
I'm assuming he doesn't eat the memorial if he rolls wrong.
Yeah, it's that sort of thing, I suppose. But yeah, like you said, it'd be really interesting to see how they actually work on the tabletop. And one thing that occurred to me straight away as well with these sort of interactions and these sort of things, something like Warcry as well. Hopefully, if we get Warcry rules for these models, I can see there being some really funny sort of stuff with a small skirmish band for these guys.
I see Dave the Smoke Guy was involved again as well.
Yes. Yeah, Rick, we have somebody pointed out on our Discord that Rick, what was it? Somebody, the Smoke Guy, is like
Dave the Smoke Guy. So every minute
Dave the Smoke Guy, yeah.
Nowadays is like some sort of wafty smoke or plume of smoke. What did he call it, Ben? Was it Dave the Smoke Guy?
It's Dave the Smoke Guy. It's Dave the Smoke Guy who comes along, and you've got miniatures that are supported by tactical smoke, or they are accompanied by wafts of tactical smoke.
They literally got a guy assigned in the studio to just put smoke on models nowadays. But yeah,
they're getting better at it.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, but that was the new Stormcast models revealed, and I think we're going to get more Skaven next week. But we did have some new Necromunda models revealed, which I forget the actual model names of. It's the Proxy and the Fixer.
The Fixer is basically Mr. Wolf from Pulp Fiction. It's just walking and going, okay, what have you guys done?
Yeah. But yeah, essentially these two are just a couple of new fun models that you can add to your gangs to effectively get you out of trouble in certain ways, or kind of like rig certain like quests that you've been given to get you extra credits, different things like that. So they have a lot of out of game campaign effects as well, which I think it's quite fun that usually these kind of characters would just sort of be like add-ons for your campaign that you could purchase with credits maybe, but they've actually given you the models as well in this scenario.
See that guy on the left in the trench coat? That for me is how the Delac gang should have looked. That guy in the trench coat.
Oh, right, okay.
Okay.
They're too tall for me, the new Delac ones. Are just,
right.
Well, they're more Dark City now and less Matrix. That was kind of the vibe they were going for. I want to D40K the guy on the right. I want to either turn him into an Imperial Noble.
I want to make him a rogue trader.
He would make an awesome rogue trader.
Yeah. I want the Imperial that Codex to be true, and that's my HQ right there. That is my rogue trader.
That would be cool.
Perfect.
The first thing I thought when I saw both of these models, because I still do appreciate them, but used to play a lot more like indie games, and these are the sort of individual models that'd be perfect for those sort of like war bands and crews and things like that, even if you're not playing Warhammer. So pretty awesome.
Yeah, Rick's bang on though. He'd make an awesome rogue trader.
He needs a fancy hat though.
Definitely, yeah.
He needs a big, fabulous hat.
A hat that like sticks out further than the ruff.
Yeah,
like this is the face is a rough hat sandwich.
Exactly.
Right. Well, that is all the models we have to have a look at from today that we literally just dropped. It's actually quite perfect that we do it on a Monday night, because at the moment, at least anyway, Games Workshop do drop all their new model reveals on a Monday, so that works out fairly well.
Call it just as planned.
Yeah, that's exactly what it should be. But so the main kind of topic we wanted to bring in this week, as the thumbnail and title suggests, something that's been on my mind for a while, and since we've sort of seen the growth so far of the old world, we've managed to give it a bit of time now, and we've seen frankly the raging success that it's had after coming back. I believe most stuff is still generally sold out on GW. I think it's only just starting to balance out a bit to the point where you can get hold of things. I think that comes alongside the fact that you can. They've actually released more stuff for it as well. Kind of helps, to be fair. But we have seen great success from the old world since it's come back, and a lot of people have sort of been questioning, alongside the new Age of Sigmar 4th edition coming, could we ever possibly see Old World get so popular that it pushes Age of Sigmar in a
Takes
way?
its title back as the premier war game.
I mean,
Get
we
back
say
in the
that
corner, old man.
lightly. Hey, say again, Rick.
Get back in the corner, old man. No, it's not happening.
So this will be interesting because I know, Rick, you like Age of Sigmar, so this will be good. But you do play Old World as well? Are you into your Old World?
Yeah. I'm started my dwarfs.
Yep, I thought you had. Yeah, so he's doing his dwarves.
Yeah, I do. I played a lot of fantasy back in the day. Wasn't really sad to see it go.
No.
But I played Age of Sigmar since day one, so it's my main game.
Of course.
So yes, I'll be in the Age of Sigmar corner.
Yes,
I'll be in the opposite, appropriately on the screen, the opposite corner.
That's true, actually.
Where, although I play Age of Sigmar, I spent most of the last few years playing like 5th edition Warhammer Fantasy and 6th edition Warhammer Fantasy. And will continue to play 5th and 6th edition, as well as playing the Old World. And absolutely believe it could reclaim its title as the premier fantasy war game produced by Games Workshop.
I'll just get comfy on my fence.
Rather than letting you guys go at it straight away with that point, there's a few things we were sort of going to bring in on this, because there is a lot of things sort of going on. Obviously, last week we discussed the whole, and I know, Rick, I've seen you've talked about it on your channel, I believe, how obviously we lost all the Beasts of Chaos from Age of Sigmar, and they've been relegated, obviously, to Old World.
Returned home, not relegated.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, returned is fair. So that we wanted to fold some of that into it as well, and how GW behind the scenes are sort of working between Age of Sigmar and the Old World, and probably why they will always never actually let the Old World, sadly, become bigger than Age of Sigmar. I don't see them actually letting it happen, obviously, but the community speaks with their money as well, I suppose.
They can try and stop us.
But yeah, so what I was going to bring up first is this whole situation where we see models going from Age of Sigmar down to Old World. Do we think we'll see that continue? Are there any models or anything like that that are currently still in Age of Sigmar that we can still see maybe relegated, not relegated, returned?
Some of the dwarfs, maybe.
As a Cities of Sigmar player going into 4th edition, I'm a little bit worried because there's at least a good third of my book could potentially disappear.
I'm surprised that they left them in after because Cities of Sigmar battle team is fairly new, isn't it, Rick? So
it is, but if when we got the 3rd edition book, we lost all of the High Elves and the Wood Elves just disappeared. Obviously, they were going back to the Old World. There are elements of the Cities book and I think the Cities book is the problematic book for the studio because it is the one with most of the old fantasy models in it. But I wouldn't be surprised to see the dwarfs be removed when we get a new battle tome, and either more humans or more mixed units of humans and dwarfs with a few elves mixed in. I think the Dark Elves will stay. They're legends. That's not going to change anytime soon. So I think the Dark Elves will stay in the book. But I think there's going to be certain models. There's definitely a new steam tank coming. And we're going to lose that. That's going to guarantee to happen.
You could almost see. I could almost see, like, I mean, we spoke about it last week. Obviously, they've got rid of a lot of the Warcry Chaos bands now, where you had like the dwarfs, Chaos dwarfs mixed in with normal humans. I wonder if you could see that sort of thing with Cities of Sigmar, like you say, almost like mercenary units, where you've got a bit of more of a mix. Yeah,
it makes sense because at the moment the book basically works as a human army, a dwarf army, or an elf army, and there's zero overlap at all. Like the order system works as a racial thing. So I could see potentially 4th edition bringing at least the dwarfs and the humans into like one melding pot, and kind of working along because technically that's what they do in the lore. So
I was going to say, in the background, isn't that how it's exactly how it's portrayed from the novels I've read? There's no race distinction. They are all part of the city, and they are all equal citizens. And It's not like they go, "Oh, this is the Dwarven Enclave." Even down to in the Warhammer Fantasy background, you go to somewhere like Middenheim, and there's the city above and the city below, the Dwarf city below, the human city above. There's nothing like that in Age of Sigmar.
Yeah, I think it's definitely exciting times for a city player because we just don't know what they're going to do.
What's coming? No, that's true. Actually,
the bits of chaos is not. It's sad to see them leave, but let's be honest. We've had 3 years of playing in the Realms of Beast, and they did nothing. And we got Kragnos, who's basically a giant centaur, and he went off and played with the orcs.
Yeah.
So it's. It was inevitable that was always going to happen. But the rest of it, I'm kind of sad for the Bone Splitters. They're kind of cool, naked orcs in war paint.
But they were always very much a square-based army that happened to be on round bases. They were lifted almost without any real additions aside from the little kind of Warhammer Underpants warband. That they were lifted wholesale from the old world.
I don't think I've seen them at any competitive level since like early part of second edition.
I'd be surprised.
Pretty much after that, they kind of just disappeared.
I was going to say the interesting one for the Cities of Sigmar will be if the dwarf stuff goes. So if you lose the Ironbreakers, and I was pondering about this because they very clearly, with the Orc release, signaled that they want to draw a clear distinction between what's in Age of Sigmar and what's in the old world. Yeah. So I was gobsmacked over this weekend that the giant big head Night Goblins are coming back, which I suppose, given they were releasing the big head common goblins, but to have that distinction drawn between the Moonclan Grots and Night Goblins.
I can see the Gits getting new basic infantry to replace the Moonclans, so they can go back to I can see them doing that. I mean, if you look at all of the trolls, the vast majority of that range of trolls are brand new. Like all of the stone trolls, the Dankold Troggoths, they're all new. The river trolls potentially could get a new kit. The actual Gits themselves potentially.
So you think the little ones, the spears, and the ones with bows will get a replacement?
But they are literally an old fantasy kit. So there's potential for that. But I think there's a lot of factions that. Like Chaos, obviously, everyone kind of knew it was going to happen. Marauders were going to disappear, and we were going to get new Age of Sigmar ones. We kind of seen that at the start with Chaos Warriors getting that weird revamp out of nowhere, and I think that kind of signaled that this intention from Games Workshop to split the two ranges.
So that being said, then linking kind of into this whole thing of the old world coming back and sort of having a smash-in release. Age of Sigmar, although obviously I'm sure it sells very well, but it never goes, I wouldn't say, like out of stock well in especially last edition.
Oh, it does.
Because I've seen a lot of Dominion box sets out there since the last edition.
But that was because
but they made a lot of them. They made a lot of them.
They did probably make too many. But they
made a lot of old world boxes though, and we sold out of them.
Say the same thing.
Restocked and resold out of them.
But I mean, that aside, see the Legends stuff that we've had put out for Old World. If we ever see Old World kind of come forwards into that time again, where in terms of like the setting, where we do have a lot of the Age of Sigmar factions such as Scathe and Lizardmen come back to Old World as well. I think it's very likely we do eventually get all of that. If we do get all of those old armies come back, some new models put with them, and they're kind of more on that level playing field with Age of Sigmar. I think it's interesting to say, obviously, like we've just kind of said and Riks just pointed out, the main studio within Games Workshop push Age of Sigmar, so they're always going to see it as their main game. But in terms of whichever ended up selling better, there may end up being an argument in the future when they're on a level playing field as to sort of which is the most popular, which is the biggest.
I think the advantage that the Old World has is that when it comes time to release an army, they're able to go, okay, orcs are getting released. here is everything. Here is, all of the old Orc models that we've still got the molds for, we've still got the CADs for, whatever. Here's a little smattering of new stuff, but we can instantly drop an entire army. They showed it with Tomb Kings, they showed it with Bretonnians, Orcs, and I fully expect when Dwarves get their release later this year that it will be like, okay, and here is all the Dwarf box sets, all the classic miniatures you've been looking for. Here is, have it! And they can't do that in Age of Sigmar, because when they release something new for Age of Sigmar, it almost kind of has to be built from the ground up. So when you get an Age of Sigmar release, even something amazing like, I'm sure the 4th edition box will be, you'll be a big influx of Stormcast units and maybe some the replacement Skaven models. But then that'll be it. And when the other armies get their updates, it will be, here's a couple of new boxes. So it will never have the same... As one of my friends, Michael, said on the Discord over the weekend, oh God, Tomb Kings and Orcs getting a huge release, in the pre-orders. My wallet can't take it because they can just go, hey,
that's true.
Look at all this amazing stuff. And there'll be something there for everyone. Like everybody will go, oh, well, maybe I can't buy everything I want, but I want that unit. I want that unit. And I think it's going to be they're going to be a bigger money spinner for them than perhaps they had anticipated.
Yeah, I think long term, if you look at the old world as
I don't mean right
thing,
now for sure. It's too fresh. Too fresh.
Once all of the core factions are out, I know they said we're not getting Kislev, but we're getting Kislev. Let's just ignore the market speak on the community team. We're going to get Kislev. We're going to get Cathay. But once that's happened, then they can start looking back at the other factions and going, here's new Tomb King Spearmen. Here's new kits updated to today's standards. And then if you look at the entire old world range of what they could refresh, that's a lot of money and a lot of kits coming for the foreseeable future. And
they can even look at the legacy factions.
Exactly.
Start bringing them in.
Definitely going to happen.
Dark Elves, this is one of the things I was thinking about Cities of Sigmar, is that if the dwarves go, then Cities of Sigmar is basically two armies. It's a human with a smattering of dwarves and a Dark Elf army. Well, and if the Dark Elves...
One army right now, anyway.
But if the Dark Elves were, for example, to get carved off into their own Age of Sigmar faction, which I could foresee happening. I could absolutely foresee them going, hey, we have secretly been working for...
I suppose,
for Ulgu all this time. But then... if they wanted to release it then as a Warhammer the Old World faction, which I think that the Dark Elves of the Legacy armies is the one most likely to get a release, because we know that at the time of the Great War Against Chaos, the Battle of Finneval Plain happened, the huge war on Ulthuan between the Dark Elves and the High Elves. Well, they've got the options of repackaging all the Dark Elf kits from Age of Sigmar, or going, hey, here is all of this classic, Dark Elf miniatures that we've still got the molds for. Let's roll those out. Let's sell Dark Elves twice. Let's sell them in Age of Sigmar, and we'll sell them in the Old World.
Corsairs.
Yeah, the problem with the double dipping is they seem to be against it.
Yeah.
And we've seen that with Heresy and 40k.
I think we're coming towards a point where the only crossover you're going to get whatsoever is demons.
Yes.
I think that's what, and I think they may, generally speaking, always be happy with demons.
I could imagine the demons, they could still release some of the classic metal demon models. They could still go, hey, we've got, have classic metal pink horrors, have the amazing, Juan Diaz demonette models. Let's bring all these out. You can't tell me people wouldn't spend money for those. People spend tons of money on eBay for those.
I'm just wondering if we're going to get an Azaval Cull miniature, because they've hinted that he's coming.
Got to.
Because, the first War of Chaos is going to happen.
I think we talked about this in a previous week, and somebody suggested, I was talking about when I thought different factions would come out, and someone said I thought Empire was going to be the last one, but somebody else suggested they thought Chaos was going to be the last one as the gateway into the
Empire and Chaos probably will be the last. When they did the design videos way before the release of Old World, and when they did the focus on the Empire factions and stuff like that, then they did one on the timelines, didn't they? And they definitely mentioned him and hinted heavily that
they constantly talk about
we're going to see a miniature.
But again, let me just throw this out there. If you've got two fantasy games running, and you've got one of them where you've got an epic battle between three claimants for the Imperial Throne and Azavar Kull, versus you can play another, Soul Wars, Storm Wars, whatever is happening in the realm of whichever realm they've picked this month in the Age of Sigmar, I know which storyline I'd want to engage in.
Having said that, there's going to be a lot of people who, getting back to this Age of Sigmar and Old World, can one eclipse the other and whatever. What you've got to bear in mind is not everybody is a fantasy player who moved to Age of Sigmar and then can double
This is
dip or
true.
go back
Oh,
and
yeah,
play.
yeah.
There are
They're
a
not
lot
all-
of people who've got into the hobby with Age of Sigmar first edition, or somebody who's come in as a kid, started playing Age of Sigmar first edition, or Soul Wars box was their first kit. All they've ever known is Age of Sigmar, and that's all they're going to really play. They're not going to look at fantasy and think, "Oh, actually, I want to try that rank and flank."
That is very
unless
true.
the parents are going to get them into it. I know that's not going to apply to everybody.
I was going to bring that up as well, so I'm
but
glad you did.
that, you know,
I'm
not everybody is
sure-
like us, if you like. Not everybody's massively into the hobby. Some people just started with the Age of Sigmar. Not everyone's Ben. But I think the two games that, like we've said, are on a divergent path now. One is the flagship fantasy game, that's Age of Sigmar. Old World, I think perhaps it did do better than they expected.
Oh, way better.
Just to say though,
Yeah,
I
way
think
better.
it will always supersede.
I still don't think
what you've got.
they made as
Heresy
much
40K.
stock as they would have done for Sigmar. So the fact that it's outsold itself, come back in stock and outsold itself again, might not be a true reflection when you put it next to Sigmar. But it's definitely done better than they expected, which is great. It's good for us as gamers as well, because they know there's interest, they know they can put more money in it, and clowns like us will go and spend it all. So it's a good thing. But the other thing about Sigmar as well, with it being the flagship game, is everything in Sigmar is copyrightable.
Yes.
True.
All the names, every single thing. Whereas Old World, there's stuff in there that they can't put a copyright claim on.
Well, dwarf, elf, goblin.
Yeah. Orc, elf, dwarf. Yeah. I know that's only a minor thing, but I think that's one of the other reasons that Sigmar will always be the flagship fantasy game.
I think one of the things for me being old, and I am old, that for looking at social media and GW's content creators, is a lot of the younger ones have been really excited about the Old World, and I'm like, you're probably not even old enough to remember the Old World. And they're like really into it, and it's really kind of interesting to watch that reaction, because I grew up on fantasy and 40k in the old days, but it's not. It's like, where are you seeing this, and why have you got this excitement for something that is very slow and is more of I think 40k and the AOS are going to be more of the gateway games into Heresy and the Old World.
Maybe some of them have been playing Total War, Warhammer, or something like that. And
true.
Or
I
they've
think
got relatives that are
yeah.
into fantasy and stuff like that.
I think you might find, and I know what you said earlier, Rick, and this is the last thing I'll probably bring up because we'll go on. We could go on for ages on this topic otherwise. But the in terms of what you were saying earlier about obviously Heresy, 40k Heresy, you'd probably say maybe if people are playing 40k, they might consider going to Heresy, whereas I couldn't see it necessarily end up being the other way around. Whereas with Old World, I can see it going both ways.
I think being a Heresy player more than a 40k player, and watching the 40k players watchers at clubs, when we throw 3,000 points down on the table, we've got all of our toys, and you can see them looking at us like, holy wow, look at that, that's a serious amount of tanks. And I think because the game is so granular that it's hard to go from Heresy into 40k, because you're expecting to be able to do so many different things with your army, and then you can't.
My thinking, yeah.
But when you come from 40k into the Heresy, and even coming from Age of Sigmar into the Old World, you're instantly hit with all of these options and things you can do. And like, I was going through my Bretonnian book and going, I can do what with my lord? Wow, this is amazing. Where normally in Age of Sigmar, I'm like, well, I can take a command trait and an enhancement. Yay. That's it.
I think you may have hit it on the head a little bit. It is almost like Heresy is 40k getting back to its roots, because at its roots 40k was a role-playing game.
Yeah.
And I suppose in many respects the Old World is a way of fantasy getting back to its roots of, again, it is almost like a role-playing game. It's a strategy rank and flank role-playing game where you're role-playing a whole army, but you are playing the character of that army, and you can customize it in much the same way as you customize like a D&D character.
Yeah.
And maybe that is the difference between the two. It's that if you want a beer and pretzels game, albeit one that is, I think, very well designed, I'm looking forward to seeing what they've done with it in fourth. Age of Sigmar is a great beer and pretzels game. Oh, the second edition 40Kers have to weigh in.
No.
Third edition 40K onwards.
Second edition was nuts.
I loved it.
No.
That's when I got into 40K. I loved it.
Yeah. Keep your vortex grenades just to yourself, thank you.
I knew he was going to say that. And toxin grenades as well.
But yeah, I think that's a fairly good place to leave off the conversation in terms of we've had a good convo about sort of where the old world might go, how it might compare in the future to Sigmar,
it's
and how
clearly
they might
superior.
both contrast. and forever it will rage on this battle. We'll come back in like 20 years time, Rick, and
Let's face it, there's nothing else really happening in the hobby world that we could have talked about this week, is there?
Yeah, this is very mild, guys, all considering.
Anyway, moving swiftly
on that bombshell, we'll leave that topic there. Yeah. But that is it for sort of news topics that we wanted to bring up this week to have a bit of a chat about. But we do have a couple of community questions to get through this week, especially as last week we didn't manage to get to any. So looking forward to getting some answered this week. And hopefully you guys have sort of got your answers to especially the first one. But with it being the four of us, hopefully we'll have some good ones.
No, I'm going to have to wing this.
Okay. This one we were meant to do last week anyway, Si. So Charax on Discord, who we all know, said, and this one is quite from a decent time ago. So he said, so Ben expressed his love and hope for Scavies and Necromunda. So if you remember, we were talking about Necromunda when the reveals dropped with the Shadow trailer.
Reveals.
It was, yeah. Are there any other missing factions for any games that you'd like to be brought back or to see? Seeing as
I know
the big
what Ben's going to say. I know exactly what he's going to say.
So squats, he said squats, Zotes, and Arbites and Genestealer cults we've seen kind of come back in a certain way. Are there any other factions, maybe even models I think we could narrow it down to, that you'd love to see come back for any of the Warhammer games? Who would like to start with this one? I certainly have one in mind, but Ben, since I said thinks you've got one, you can go first if you want.
Dogs of War by any chance?
I mean, don't get me wrong. I would like to see Dogs of War make an appearance.
See, I also
in the
had a
old
theory
world.
what you might come up with, but it might not be.
But that's not actually what I was going to say. I've given this some thought. I know I've said before, Dogs of War, I'd love to see the Metal Dogs of War miniatures re-released just as a generic Tylean army for the Badlands in the old world. That would be amazing. That being said, what I'd actually like to see is I would like to see rules for, and maybe just a few new models, but rules for Orcs and Eldar in the Horus Heresy era. I want to see a Great Crusade supplement because I love the Horus Heresy rules, and I would love to see the opportunity of going, okay, let's field, rather than it being Marine versus Marine, which is a lot of fun, but let's take these Marine legions that we've built and purge the galaxy. So let's have Eldar rules that are written as well as the Marine rules are written for Horus Heresy. Let's have Orc rules that are written, maybe with some rules for things like giant super orcs like the Beast.
And they can also throw in some Mark II Crusade armor as well, just to keep the Space Marine players happy.
Oh, Mark 5.
Well, Mark 5 as well. And if
we were doing Group Crusade, it would have to be Mark II Crusade armor. Si is right.
Yeah, but if the rumours are true, though, there's a box coming with Mark II and Mark 5, if the scuttlebutt is true.
Absolutely buy the Mark 5 for some Shattered Legion stuff. But that's what I'd like to see. I want to play the Great Crusade. I want to be able to go, hey, let's play, cool. Eldar stuff and Orcs taking on the Space Marine legions.
I wonder if we'd ever get like I wonder if you'd ever get like they might do like a Curse City style box release or Blackstone Fortress, but like based on Crusade. I wonder if that might be like the way they'd bring it in, or I don't know. I'm just thinking of ways that they could do it.
But like you say, Space Crusade revamp.
Yeah.
I was about to say that.
Yeah.
That would be very cool.
Yeah.
Well, you go next then. Let's see.
I'd love to see a Space Crusade come back in what they did with Space Hulk and Primaris it. Yeah, go for it. Go crazy. I don't care. But it'd be interesting to see updated miniatures and updated Dreadnought, Primaris Space Marines with a proper 3D designed board. It was the entry game for a lot of us. I spent many summers playing it as a kid, and it would be really cool to see them bring it back.
So you're saying Space Hulk specifically, yeah?
Space Crusade, not Space
Crusade, yeah.
Yeah, 100% Space Crusade.
would it be an opportunity to give us some of the different marks of like armor and stuff that they've been missing from the Horus Heresy era? So things like the Terminators. Is it Saturnine? Is that what they're called? They've got the giant,
with the big shoulders.
Yeah.
big shoulders and the bolt cannon between their shoulders. Because that was in the Space Crusade box.
I can't remember them. Were they? I can't remember which one that was in.
They had giant built-up shoulders and then a gun mounted between them. That was in Space Crusade.
Yes, I do.
Yeah,
remember that,
I vaguely remember them, but yeah, I think it was one of the weird expansions that like
Maybe it was
come out
advanced
and
Space
it didn't. But yeah, I'd love to see it come back because it's just an amazing game, so simple to play.
With an amazing TV advert like they did before. That would be really cool.
This is like my whole thing with Mordheim, innit? I know.
The Amiga game was pretty good as well.
Yeah,
it was.
I had the game on Amiga. It was pretty cool.
Oh, cool. Si, do you want to go next?
Well, yeah. Well, going off the basis of the question, with Ben mentioning Ratskins and stuff like that, I'd love to see this new Necromunda expansion go either into Hive Secundus, which is one of the rumors, or down into the Sump, and we get things like Hive Scum come back. Like, I don't know if you remember the Scum who was holding the plasma pistol with two hands, the Hive Scum, which is the old metal one. Ratskins, Scavies, Bounty Hunters as well. Something like that. So that's for Necromunda. I'd love to see something like that. And then the other one for 40k, and I don't think they'll ever do it, is Hrud. I'd love to see them just create a whole new Xenos army.
Space Skaven!
Well, maybe not Space Skaven, but you've seen some of the design sketches that John Blanche has done and other artists. They're basically like, well, I don't even know how to describe them. They're look like rags, don't they? Rags and bones.
Jawas. Yeah. They are Jawas with giant rifles.
Yeah, so they could do Hrud maybe, or go back to Horus Heresy, do a supplement, maybe not Great Crusade, but the part of the Great Crusade was the Rangdan genocides. You know what? Apparently a full Space Marine Legion nearly disappeared. So you could do all sorts with that.
I just want to say that one of the best conspiracy theories I have thus far read on the Rangdan genocides is that it is, in much the same way as some of the crazy stuff that's happened in the 40k lore, it is a smokescreen. It is a cover-up. Because there's stuff in like the background, like the Storm Wardens in the Deathwatch role-playing game, where they've got an entire like first company in a stasis vault awaiting some terrible genocide in the future.
Is this the conspiracy theory that the war wasn't against Xenos, but was against the 2nd or the 11th Legion because they turned traitor? No,
this is the theory that the entirety, one entire Space Marine Legion was basically sequestered off into like a stasis vault in the void beyond the galactic plane in preparation for a far greater terrible threat in the future. And that at some point, they just marked it in the Imperial records. The whole Legion was lost. They were lost in the genocides. And actually, it's a complete smokescreen. And everybody involved was either killed or had their memory erased by the Emperor. And there is an entire legion with a Primarch sat out there in the dark void between the galactic planes, waiting to be reactivated and brought back in.
Nice. I mean, so like Si said, sort of in terms of what army or models would I want to see come back. And actually, Ben, we brought this up in one of the last number of podcasts ago. Can't remember what it might have been, another question or part of another topic. And that's, does anybody remember the Famir for Age of Sigmar? They kind of got forgotten about, pushed away. They were Forge World, weren't they?
Yeah.
You had like the Famir Nobles, wasn't it? Then you had the Femi Rak, which is like the I think Warlocky like the leader or whatever, the nobles, yeah. And then you also had the Swamp Troll Hag, who kind of I think came under their sort of thing at the time as well. And I remember when we last spoke about the Famir, I'd love to see them obviously expand, bring them back. They probably would have to kind of change their lore, or fiddle with it a bit. But I'd love to see them come back with them. You could either do Old World or Age of Sigmar, or you could do both, but they'd probably do one.
New Destruction faction for Age of Sigmar was what I suggested.
We have Hobgoblins, so they technically could tie in with them.
Yeah, you could actually even do that. So bring them in as like a tie-in. You're right, Rick. To be fair, I'd even be happy with that. But just kind of like sort of, because I said this in one of the last ones when we were talking about them. There were tons of people predicting that the Dominion box set was going to be Famir
Yeah.
rather than the Swamp Orcs, and then they dropped like the first banner for the actual. I think it had like the weird red face or whatever, wasn't it? With like the pimples on it, and everybody was like, "No, that's Orc." And then there were the very few people like me, just like they could have changed the Famir lore. It could still happen, but it never did. So I would still love to see Famir come back and maybe just a few more fun models. Like Rick said, either part of kind of like another faction or as their own thing. But it could even just be as a small like supplement battle tome like we've just seen with.
They desperately need more factions for destruction because I mean now with the Bone Splitters gone, there's 2.
Yeah.
Well, 3, I suppose technically. Yeah.
Yeah, battle tomes. Yeah. Because they folded Orcs mostly into one now, haven't they?
I can see them splitting Orcs back into 2 now.
Do you think?
Yeah.
But Famir would be my vote. And just as a cheeky little thing, I want to see Kroot get their big models back because I'm always going to shout for Kroot. I want the Narloks to come back, baby. Get on
and Narlock cavalry.
Yeah, exactly. All the Narloks. But yeah, hopefully we'll get to that eventually because they seem to be warming up to the
Desert Raiders. Katachan, Jungle Fighters. That is all.
Not the Valhallans as well. If we're going to be wish listing the original,
I'd look for them all if I could.
Those beautiful, beautiful Vostorians.
Oh, the Vostorians!
They're big bearskins.
And their Rick, lore you mentioned as well. Earlier, the 2 of the old world factions that we might see maybe come back eventually. Who was it we were saying about again? It was the.
Was it Cathay and Kislev?
Cathay and Kislev are definitely happening.
So hopefully we'll see them come back eventually maybe as well. That'd be pretty sweet.
I want to see halflings in the Empire. When the Empire get their arcane journal, I am absolutely demanding that there are halflings and a halfling hot pot in there.
Well, it's funny you speak about halflings, Ben, because our next community question comes from Picolos on Reddit, who said, would Age of Sigmar ever incorporate halflings, so he's obviously a halflings fan, either as a Cities of Sigmar expansion, and Nick, Rick, you were saying earlier about, getting more for your Cities of Sigmar. I don't think maybe he's keen on halflings, but we'll find out. Or as an expansion or minor order faction, so their own sort of battle tome or supplement or something like that. So could we see halflings expanded on or brought back in some way is the question, I suppose. I'll leave it to the floor. Because obviously we have the Blood Bowl team, which, Ben, I know you're working on. So,
they would be called something different. If they were in Age of Sigmar, they would have to be called something completely different and copyrightable that was also not in any way offensive.
Well, it's like we saw with the Squats, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So they renamed the Leagues of Votan. So you'd probably see something similar. Because am I right in saying that Old World, they used to be playable, or Fantasy, did they used to be playable as part of Empire?
Yeah, no, they are absolutely in the background. Yeah. A chunk of the Empire is the Moot. And they even have a representative who gets sent to the Imperial Court and refuses to wear shoes. It's great.
It's basically the Shire, isn't it?
Yes, it's the Shire. This is the chunk of the. It's completely plagiarizing Tolkien. It's a chunk of the Shire dropped into the middle of the Empire of Man.
Because one thing you have to admit to yourself is that the new Gnomes team that we got and the Halflings team when that was revealed were very popular.
I want Gnomes. I don't want halflings unless I can have them as cannon fodder. But gnomes.
Oh no!
I'll take the gnome.
You could probably fold both in on the same question. To be fair,
I want a gnome pump wagon.
A gnome's pump wagon.
Just have a small.
But it'd be like a badger chariot or something, wouldn't it?
Yeah, be amazing.
And I think that's in an honest answer to the question. I think if you did see them come in any, I don't see them ever getting their own battle tome.
No,
I don't even see them in Age of Sigmar. I don't think they fit the dynamic or the vibe.
They die.
Not really. But
there is no mortal realm that they would survive in.
But so maybe you might see them.
Just throwing this out there. Imagine if it was something like, have you ever seen the TV show Disenchanted? The Simpsons guy, Matt Groening's Netflix fantasy series, and they have the tiny little candy-making elves kingdom that is only visible when they open the drawbridge, and otherwise it's its own little pocket dimension. If you had gnomes in like their own pocket dimension and their own sub-mortal realm that they could pop out of,
they could technically get put into the Sylvaneth faction. I mean, gnomes and halflings being looked after by giant trees. Angry trees could kind of work. That could work.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
New
because
section
they
of
are
lore
very
within the
small.
Sylvaneth where they
Exactly.
halflings come out from the woods and help clean them from like what is it, like those new branch wraiths or whatever that we've seen that are infected. The halflings are the one that help cure them.
No, let's be honest, if the halflings would be picking their leaves, rolling, drying, and smoking them.
Well, if that helps them, Ben, symmetry here. But yeah, I think in terms of halflings within Age of Sigmar or any like old world or anything like that, I think, but most Age of Sigmar, since that was your question, I don't see them getting their inbound in. But maybe we might see them filtered in for fun somewhere. And I'm sure we'll get new halfling stuff.
One Warcry warband they're incredibly lost and they don't know how they got there.
Warcry warband I can see.
That would be
I
cool.
can see a Warcry warband,
yeah. Halfling expeditionary force. We've made it to this new realm. We have no idea how we got here, and we don't know when lunchtime is.
Because obviously, Leagues of Votann or Squats, we've seen them filtered now, haven't we, into all of them? So I'm sure we could see that as well. But yeah, thanks for that. That was a fun one to discuss either way. So I hope that answered your question to some degree. But that is the main two community questions that I picked from this week. But please do, guys, jump onto our Discord if you're not already on there. There's a section that I've got up on there where you can share your podcast questions. We'll bring them up each week. Topics might even become your own separate video on the channel because I do separate out some of the topics during the week. So please do send those in. Sorry, Ben, were you going to say something? No.
You
look like you were breathing up, ready to say something. Then.
I'm contemplating the other digestive biscuit that I've got next to me.
Feel free, because we're about to go into Warhammer 20 questions for the week. And we have had, I've got multiple suggestions from viewers now that we've had in. So, but somebody's who I haven't taken yet is S. Barnett, who is part of our Discord. He did send me in a suggestion. And Rick, obviously you've not joined us before, you've not played it, but for anybody new to the podcast or obviously to explain to Rick as well, Warhammer 20 questions we do at the end of every episode. You have to guess, along with the guys, ask 19 questions. The 20th has to be your guess for a character or unit from the Warhammer universe. It can have a model or no model, it can just be from the lore. And basically you're asking yes or no questions to me. Between the three of you to see if you can guess who it is. And every week, either I or the viewers come up with a suggestion. So, S. Barnett sent his in this week. Let the questioning begin. And I know the guys usually do let the guests come up with the first one. So, Rick, you've been you've been thrown into the frying pan there. But guys, if you give him some suggestions as usual, I'm sure.
Yeah. So we usually start off by trying to establish what game system it is.
Yeah.
Do you reside in the 41st millennium or the old world or something
that sort of stuff?
Yeah, exactly. Ask a yes, no question.
But by all means, ask whatever you want.
Yeah.
Can I ask something really out of the blue? I don't mind.
Do you live in space?
In space, that could come under some of the other game systems as well. But no, I don't.
Do you want to go clockwise round? So, Sai, do you want to go next?
Okay. Do you reside in the mortal realms?
Mortal realms? No.
Okay. Now, the thing is, do you reside in space? They could live on a planet, for example, so he could be being tricksy in this regard. So let's just try. Do you live in the world that was?
Yes.
Okay, so we're talking old world game system.
Yeah.
That's 3 questions down, folks. Rick, over to you.
Are you undead?
No. That's 4.
Do you have pointy ears?
No.
Okay.
Are you human?
No.
Okay. Still leaves the bearded ones, the crop, the dwarf. There's still quite a few options left open to us there.
Do you live in a desert?
No. That's 8.
Do you play Blood Bowl?
Yes.
Ooh, well done, Sai.
Good question.
Okay, so we know that it's let's just recap. It's not a human. It's not an elf. It's a Blood Bowl character or player. Do you have a model?
I do. That's 11.
You're not undead.
Not undead, not human, not an elf.
Do you worship chaos?
No, I don't. That's 12.
Oh, I've got a hunch. Do you have a tail?
No, that's 13.
Oh, it's not Shuttle Spike then.
Do you have green skin?
No, that's 14.
Not an orc.
Ooh.
Are you a
no,
rat?
It's
tell you
not-
what, you're running out of questions here,
So
guys.
it's not an orc. Let's just recap. It's not an orc. It's not a Skaven. It's not a lizard man. Because those
Could be a
both have
Skaven.
tails. Well, it could be a Skaven because they have tails. And you asked, do you
Oh,
have a
yeah.
tail? It doesn't have a tail.
No tail.
So
It's-
not
are they
undead.
stunty?
Or
Could be
not
stunty.
Well, that's it. We're honing in. It's not elf, human, orc, undead, lizard, rat, which means that leaves the dwarves. What other? It leaves ogres. It leaves it still leaves a lot of teams. Crikey.
Do you have
That's the funny
a-
thing. Blood Bowl actually has a lot of different, like, weird kind of factions, I suppose.
Do you have a fabulous beard?
No, that's 15. Sorry, you only got 4 questions
Oh,
left,
yeah.
guys.
Oh my goodness.
That's definitely not a dwarf.
It's not a dwarf.
The entire Bull dwarf range have got
And it means
beards.
it's not a gnome either, because the gnomes all have
Yeah.
beards.
So it's not Rodney Roachbait then, is
No,
it?
it's not Roger Rope because he has a beard. But that means it could still be a halfling, it could be an ogre, it could be what other teams are left? What other teams are left? We know it's not undead, so it's not vampires or any of the
All the referee-
undead characters.
The referees are all either human or elves, aren't they?
It's the
Well, there's-
referees, a
there's
dwarf
halfling.
and an elf.
There's a dwarf and an elf, yeah, and we know it's not either of those. So who is left race-wise? I don't know if there is. What other? What,
Is there a
there's literally-
vampire? Is there a vampire count?
There
Oh,
is
he's not
vampire,
undead,
but he's undead though, so he would be undead.
Yeah.
So
That's
that
undead,
literally leaves us ogres, which the ogres don't have a special character, do they? Don't think they do. It leaves us
Ooh.
halflings.
What about Zoltan the Zoat? No, he's got a tail, hasn't he?
He's got a tail. Yeah. More. We had Morgan Thorg once previously, didn't we?
We had
Yeah,
that
no,
previously,
yeah.
yeah.
Yes, but it's not going to be Morgan Thorg.
Not to say that in the far future I might not bring up old ones if people suggest them, but I'm not going to do it like 2 weeks.
No, I
later.
hope you would redo a previous one already.
Yeah.
It's not worshipping the Chaos Gods, so it's not anyone like a Minotaur special character or anything like that. We haven't asked if it is a. It's your question, Si, isn't it? We haven't established if it is a star player.
A star player.
Yeah, I think you should.
Are you a star player?
According to GW, yes.
We've only got 3 questions left. There's 1 tree man, 1 troll, and 3 halfling special characters. Those are the only star players it can be based upon the limits we've got. So if I ask if it's a halfling, that reduces it. If the answer is yes, it reduces it to one of 3 halflings. If the answer is no, then it's either the troll or the tree.
Wow, it's already gone down to here.
Oh no! I'm trying to. We're
You're right,
undefeated.
you're
We are
right.
undefeated. So my question is it a halfling?
It is a halfling, yeah.
Okay, so it's one of the 3 halflings. We've got 2 questions and a guess.
Well
One of the
done, Ben.
halflings is female.
You're going to be guessing this week, Ben, so...
Sorry, one of the halflings is female. The other 2 are male. So if we work out the gender, that reduces our odds.
Oh, but 2 of them come together.
They do, but if you ask, is it male or is it female? Is it male or is it female? Then that one would give us an idea. If it's female,
separate.
it's only 1 star player it can be. If it's male, then it's one of 2. And we can then ask, are you riding on a sheep?
So you're on
Are
question
you-
18. You got 2 left.
Are you a male?
So it has to be
just-
yes or no. So you could just ask male.
Yeah. Are you male?
I am male.
Okay, Si,
That
you
brings you
get to
down to
ask
2.
the question.
Do you ride a sheep?
I don't.
Which
So
means
that
the
is your
guess.
last question. So now it's the guess.
The
Which
guess.
Go on, Ben,
takes
over to
what
you.
down to it?
We should have this. Are you Pudgy Bacon Breath?
I am indeed.
Yay!
You literally got that on the 20th. Those are the ones we love. Yes.
Undefeated.
Undefeated.
Well done, Esbarnet. That was a good suggestion because those are my favourites when it comes right down to the wire. And it really
We have
did
to use
there.
our brains rather than asking you ridiculous questions. If you haven't watched it, Rick, seriously, if you haven't watched, I think was it last week we had the Emperor as the
Yeah.
answer.
Somebody
and we
threw
were-
up the Emperor.
But so it was myself and Si had figured it out, but the guest hadn't, and myself and Si were killing ourselves laughing,
Yeah.
asking stupid questions. And
Yeah,
the
we
guest
were
was just
gold
getting more
member
and more
jokes and all
confused.
sorts, wasn't it?
Boom. There we go. It's Puggy Bacon Breath on the GW website.
Spinning the sandwich.
Spinning his sandwich, yeah. He's known for his eating. Apparently turned up to one of the award ceremonies asking first about the buffet and didn't actually turn up to accept his award. He just stayed at the buffet. So there we go. Fun little models. But yeah, well done, guys. Got it literally on the last question. Great suggestion by Esparnet. And as always, guys, please do don't private message me, basically, or you can email me, wargamingluke@gmail.com. You can send in your suggestions, please do, for Warhammer 20 questions. It can be your favourite unit or model, or you can just send one in where you want to test the guys for the following episodes, and I'll get yours on the podcast. But that, I believe, is more or less it for this week, guys. We'll say our goodbyes. We'll start off with my two co-hosts, Ben, 90% Geek. Where can we find you, my friend? As I just suggested.
Over on my own YouTube channel, 90% Geek, where if you head over there at the moment, you'll find out the secret of Games Workshop's long-lost underwater treasure. Otherwise, I am over on Twitter and all the other socials. Again, I'm just 90% Geek. You look me up on any of those, you'll find me there. And I am back every Friday with a video on my own channel.
If you haven't been and checked out that video as well yet, it's
a
storm up event right now. It's a fun video. He's put the effort into the infographics, the research, everything. It's a very good one. So do go and check that out. Si, what's going on with you, mate? Where can people find you?
We can find me on YouTube as Hobby Waffle, same for Twitter and Instagram. I've just done a shorts video actually on the current topic that is trending on Twitter that everyone's talking about. Just a bit of a parody video on the whole female custodies thing. And as we've been recording this podcast, my phone has been at the side of me and it's been pinging like crazy. There's quite a few comments nice for you
when you finished here then.
There's some unfriendly comments on there. There's some friendly comments from people who've obviously got that it was a joke.
I'm sure.
But yeah, it's just a bit of fun. So go and have a look at that one if you want. And then there's plenty of other videos on there as well. But also do go and check out Ben's treasure hunting video because it's hilarious.
It's good. And Rick, aka from Pointy Paints, thanks so much for joining us this week, mate. You were a great guest to have on. Some great chat. You backed your corner for Age of Sigmar well, mate. So I'm sure, knowing that as well, we'll actually have to have you back on for something Age of Sigmar related in the future if we have some big news coming up.
Yeah, when 4th edition launches, that'd be a good time.
For sure. Good to have you on, mate, for that.
Pleasure.
And where can people find you, mate?
I'm pretty much on YouTube and Instagram mainly. Pointy Paints, obviously. And I will be getting back to doing some more painting tutorials and less talky head stuff. I may talk about female custodies.
Maybe.
Maybe. See how I feel tomorrow.
That has basically been Warhammer content creators' deliberation for the past week. Do I do a video on it or not? So yeah,
that's why I just went for the funny short because I didn't want to do anything.
I might just kill my channel. Yeah, might. Just,
That's it. Yeah, but no, do for sure go and check out Rick's channel. Great stuff over there, and his Instagram. He does some gorgeous models, especially following his Howling Griffins stuff that he's doing. It's great
nice.
to follow. So
there's lots more to come.
Good stuff. Awesome. But hopefully we'll have you back on in the future, dude. Otherwise, as always, guys, until next time, happy wargaming. Cheers.
Bye.